Here's the thing. Joe Biden, don't lecture us about accepting elections when you still say that Stacey Abrams is the rightful governor of Georgia after she lost by 50,000 votes in her last.
I have never heard this. Like, he's just making stuff up. I've never heard this. Anytime Republicans go on this tangent, you can ignore them. Like, you can just make fun of them for this. There is no comparison. Their guy, Donald Trump, is the most blatantly anti-democratic president we've had essentially ever, really, in the history of this country. Nobody else has ever shown so much of a callous disregard for the rules of a democracy. And in order to, like, scapegoat and avoid that, they have to be like, well, do you remember how Hillary Clinton complained about how she lost the election? That's exactly the same as Donald Trump leading an insurrection, spending the next several years complaining that he should actually be reinstated as president. Like, there's no comparison. Donald Trump is so ready to call foul on the results of elections that when he won in 2016, he immediately said millions of illegals voted for Hillary Clinton and then spent taxpayer money on proving it, and they weren't able to find a single vote. That's how ready he is to cry foul every single time. Even after winning, he said he would have been able to win by an even larger margin if it weren't for all the fake illegal immigrants voting, and he still cried, you know. And then they spent millions and millions of your dollars failing to prove a single vote was miscounted.
Now, one of the things that's amazing here is that there has been a bipartisan possibility of a bill that's been brought up by Mitch McConnell in the Senate, and that is change the Electoral Count Act so that there is no possibility of rejecting certified votes from the states. The Democrats won't pass it because they want to run on these issues. They want to pretend that their opponents hate democracy and then run on that.
What? Can I see any evidence indicating Democrats are the ones who don't want to vote on a bill that would prevent the elector count from voting in line with the state's popular vote? Is there anything indicating that at all? The fact that McConnell is the one putting it forward makes me think that the bill probably doesn't actually do that. Democrats want to amend the Electoral Count Act. Republicans are blocking it in the Senate. Okay, so it's probably got a bunch of extra bullshit tacked on. The Electoral Count Act. Let's see. The Electoral Count Act of 1887. That was a while ago, guys. I don't think that's what we're talking about. That's that seems a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. The Electoral Count Reform Act. There we go. All right, that's okay. There we go. That sounds better. Raises the threshold to lodge an objection to electors to at least 1/5 of the duly chosen and sworn members of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Here. Proposed reforms for the Electoral Count Act draw broad support. Okay. A newly unveiled proposal aiming at reforming the Electoral Count Act, a widely criticized 135-year-old law governing the process of casting and counting electoral college votes, has garnered support. Thus far, the proposed changes have received broad support, though some on the left say they don't go far enough. Okay. So what? How is it the Democrats not passing it? A bipartisan Senate group announced a deal on reforming the Electoral Count Act. I'm not seeing anything here indicating that Republicans want to pass it, but Democrats don't. Well, guess we could just make shit up about that.
The polls show over and over and over again that Republicans remain patriotic. They say they love the country, even when Democrats win. Democrats change their opinions on how much they love the country based almost solely on when they are winning and losing.
So this is true in one small respect, which is that when Republicans talk about loving America, they don't mean the America that exists today. Listen to the way Donald Trump campaigned and the way he talked about America. According to him, this place is a shithole. America's fallen apart. We're ruinous, you know. We're filled with crime and corruption. Everything is broken and falling apart. The America they like is a kind of imagined white nationalist America, you know, like the 1950s imagery that flashes in their head, the white picket fence and the well-mowed lawns and the ethnically homogenous neighborhoods. When they say they love America, there's an idea of an America that they love, but Republicans have consistently been extremely aggressive against the existing America when they campaign in ways that Democrats haven't. Seriously, do you guys remember back in 2020, Biden and Trump campaigning? Whenever Biden talked about America, he would be like, this is a great country of promise and value, and so on and so forth. And Donald Trump would talk about how this country is falling apart, the Democrats are tearing it to the ground, our cities are falling apart, they're full of the homeless, they're drugs, like the fascist mantra relies on fear-mongering to their constituency in order to get them elected, and you can't fear-monger if you talk about things being all right. Democrats tend to be a lot more optimistic during the election cycle, which I don't always agree with, by the way. It's not like I care that much about patriotism, but the America that Republicans talk up is the America they want to return to. Hence, you know, make America great again, implying that it's not currently great.
Republicans are very consistent that they love the country. Democrats only love the country when Barack Obama is president. And then when Donald Trump wins, boom, the patriotism just drops off the table. When he says...
The reason for that is because Democrats, when asked if they love the country, are thinking about the country as it actually exists, and Republicans are thinking about the image of America they have in their head. Does that make sense? So to them, when they're asked about it, it's unchanging because the America in their head exists in the past, in a fantasy. But if you ask a left-leaning person how they feel about America, they're going to think about problems that America experiences today. Homelessness, the opium epidemic, war, poverty, they'll think about actual issues. It's because they're not operating on the kind of like fascist foundational myth.
That we have to work to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in the chamber. He despises those institutions. He has called for the end of the filibuster, for example. He is somebody who says that the Supreme...
What? The filibuster is not an essential bedrock of American democracy. First of all, Joe Biden is not exactly a crazy advocate for getting rid of the filibuster. And second of all, the filibuster isn't in the fucking Constitution. It's not an institution of America. It's not a pillar of American democracy. What the fuck? It's like, what does that mean?
I mean, this is gaslighting at the very, very highest level. Again, when he says that there are people in this country who are attempting to suppress the right to vote, that is such a lie. What exactly is the evidence that he has that millions of votes are being not counted and thrown out?
Well, wow. Oh, God. That's like a whole video segment on its own. If I try to go through all of them, it's going to be tough for me to even remember. I mean, okay. We've got the efforts to institute voter ID registration, even though there's no evidence at all of voter fraud being a problem and voter ID being something that's generally less available to the poor. We've got the systemic removal of voting locations in areas that are poorer in some parts of some states. The stuff that happened in Texas and Georgia. Yeah, the voter ID laws in Georgia and Texas have had a tendency to specifically target the types of IDs or the areas that have more people of color. We have thousands of black voters just getting purged from voter rolls. Do you guys remember that? There are literally just U.S. citizens who can legally vote who just got purged from voter rolls. Thousands of them, overwhelmingly poor people of color, just removed from them for no reason at all. Just gone. They just like, whoa, nope. So they cast a vote because they haven't been told they've been purged from the voter rolls, and then their vote didn't count. They're just not voters anymore. Yeah, just whoop, gone. There's the fact that the people of Florida wanted to allow votes for former prisoners, for criminals, and then immediately Ron DeSantis stamped down and redlined it by hastily, with his Republican-backed legislator, passing legislation to make it harder and harder to do that. Just arrested 20 guys who, as far as I can tell, seem to have legally had the right to vote. If not by some arcane, rules lawyering that might actually, get them out of whatever legal trouble they're in. There's the whole them denying the 2020 election results and literally Donald Trump leading a mob on the Capitol, threatening to hang Mike Pence because he wasn't doing something he couldn't do, which was delay the attempt to certify the election result. There's so much. If you filled up a Google Doc of efforts being made by Republicans to prevent, to fuck over the democratic process, you could fill pages and pages and pages. You could a huge list. I'm remembering a fraction of it. It's massive. It's enormous. It's insane. Yeah, you have all the stuff that came out with the Jan 6 committee of Donald Trump on the phone, literally telling local Republican officials that they need to find more votes for him so he can win the election. That's not explicit corruption. Yeah, just phenomenal stuff there. But yeah. Gaslighting. Yeehaw.
He is saying that he is the light that has emerged. He's the messianic figure that has emerged from the darkness. He said,
"What the fuck is this projection, dude? Jesus Christ!" And when Biden said, "I love America," what he actually meant was Jesus fuck. Again, the teal deer style of video analysis here.
He has spent more money than any president in the history of the world.
What? He spent more money than any other president in the history of the world? I think if you adjust for inflation, I'm going to assume that the costs associated with World War II probably, what? I don't even know. This is probably some whining about the COVID stimulus or something. I don't know. It's stupid.
They're the white supremacists, the MAGA extremists.
In regards to why Ben brought up Stacey Abrams, it's because there's a trial that started in April about her election involving voter suppression, which seems to be true back in 2018. So it's funny that he tried to use her as an example of hypocrisy when she literally had the election stolen from her. I don't know about this. Election lawsuit backed by Stacey Abrams go to trial in Georgia. Oh, Well, I guess if, Republicans want to complain about this, the critical difference would be that Trump's campaign filed like 78 lawsuits. They all got shot down, and then he tried to storm the Capitol. Whereas if Stacey Abrams has a grievance about the legitimacy of her election, she takes it to court and sticks to the court as the vehicle by which she wants to challenge the legitimacy of her election. Seems like a fair thing to do. I'm okay with that. Brian Kemp was the Georgia Secretary of State in 2018 when he was running for governor. Kemp purged voter rolls in Georgia for his own election. Oh, well, there you go. Stacey Abrams' opponent was in charge of the election against Stacey Abrams. Oh, yeah, okay. Good system. Gotcha. Again, this is one of the other reasons why you should never, like, let them pull the hypocrisy card, because every bad thing they do, you've done a good thing that they'll lie about to make it seem like a bad thing. Like, that's the difference right there. It's exactly like, I mean, you've seen this online, haven't you? Like, a Republican politician will be outed as a pedo, and then in the comments there will be Republicans being like, yeah, well, the left has no right to complain with them, like, grooming kids into LGBT ideology. And you have to debunk so much shit to really address that argument. But understand, like, from that perspective, what they're essentially saying is those people can overlook Republican politicians raping children because in their minds, they've thought like, okay, yeah, well, maybe a few Republicans do that, but all Democrats are effectively doing the same thing with LGBT ideology. And this is a perspective that is so brain damaged that for like again, like grab a rock, right? It's so fundamentally incompatible with reality. Because that's the goal of stuff like this from Ben Shapiro, right? There's no way to be sane and correct and Republican. It's not possible. This isn't like a difference in like a interpretation of data or whatever. The Republican Party is rooted in conspiracy at this point. There's no legitimacy, no political legitimacy outside the adoption of different ethical axioms, like, for example, the moral belief in purging degeneracy, or the moral belief in, I don't know, a white supremacy or something. Like, there are axiomatic positions that you could take to justify the lies that a Republican needs to engage in to push their ideology. But these aren't axiomatic beliefs that I respect. Nor should you, nor should anyone, you know? A person who thinks that murder is okay actually might have a different axiomatic position, but that won't save him from the chair. Ben Shapiro, along with essentially all Republican pundits at this point, they exist to insulate the Republican mind from any information or perspective that might lead them to realize that they're in a cult. And a big part of that is training them to reflexively utilize the hypocrisy argument anytime something bad is unavoidably confronted. Anytime the Republicans do something obviously, objectively, undeniably bad, their brain has to immediately fire, the synapses fire, and their response has to be, oh, well, Democrat do this. It doesn't matter if the Democrat actually did the same thing. They probably didn't. They usually lie. Ben lied on every point on his, like, hypocrisy run-through. But it keeps them from the other synapse firing outcome, which might be, oh, wow, I'm in a fucked up cult. Dangerous stuff.